So Chapter 1, Section 1 talks about rates, and you really have to understand what a rate is and what a unit rate is before you can actually get into some of the problems for this lesson. So it says, for rate, it is a ratio that compares two quantities with different kinds of units. And so notice here, we usually display a rate as a fraction in this case when we have the units and the two different numbers here. Notice when it says two different kind of units, we have beats and we have minutes. That's what we mean by two different units. Sometimes it's miles and hours, miles and gallons, price per pound. Those are all examples of different units that we might be looking at. Okay? The difference between a rate and a unit rate is that a unit rate is simplified so that the bottom number of the fraction is a 1. So this is a rate and this is a unit rate. And the way you figure that out is you look at the problem and you say, okay, I need that bottom number to become a 1. How do I go from 2 to 1? Well, to do that, you would divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1 minute. But to keep the fraction the same, if you do it on the bottom, you also have to do it on the top. So 160 beats divided by 2 is 80 beats. And that's where we come up with the unit rate of 80 beats per minute. And you say the label based off of how it looks here. Beats, think of this as almost like per beats per minute. Alright, and again, these are examples of common rates and unit rates there. So let's look at a problem. We're going to look at number 3 first. Write 5 pounds for $2.49 as a unit rate. Round to the nearest hundredth. And in this case, we're rounding to that number because we're talking about money. Now, for this, whenever you usually look at a unit rate, you're always going to have price on top because we want to find price per pound, not pound per price. That wouldn't make as much sense. Most of the time, whenever you're dealing with money, the money's going to go on top. Price per box, price per hour, price per pound, price per minute, any of those types of things, you're finding the price on the top. So you'd put this on the top of your fraction, the 5 on the bottom of your fraction, and there we have a rate, just like we looked at before when we had the 160 beats over 2 minutes. That's our rate. But then we want to make it into a unit rate, which means that bottom number has to be 5. In our first instance, we divided by 2, and we did that because 2 divided by 2 would give me 1. When we look at this, 5 divided by 2 wouldn't give me 1. You have to divide by whatever would give you 1 as your answer. So let's divide by 5. You always divide by that bottom number so that it would be 1 pound. On the top, you have to do the same thing. And you might have to use a calculator for some of these. So $2.49 divided by 5 gives you 0.498. And remember, they want you to round. And so here's the hundredths. You look at the one right before it, an 8. So this would round up. Well, that's going to round up to a 10, which would also make that a 5. So it's going to come out to be 50 cents. I forgot to squeeze my 0 in there, so it kind of looks funny. But it's 0.50, 50 cents per pound. And you can write that per pound in words, or you can put the slash, which means per, and the abbreviation for pound, and pound is LB. So it'd be about 50 cents per pound on that one. On example 1, you still have to find the unit rate, but you have to find the unit rate for 2 different parts and then compare them. So it says CD Express offers 4 CDs for $60. Music Place offers 6 CDs for $75. Which store offers the better price? So when we look at this, this is our first offer, and this is the second offer. So in order to compare them, you have to look at how much you pay per CD. To do that, 4 CDs for $60. We'll have 60 on top per 4 CDs. And then we'll find divide by 4 for 1 CD. That ends up being, and again, you can use a calculator if you need. Some people know this off the top of their head, would be $15. For the other one, it was $75 for 6 CDs. So you would divide by 6, and in that case, each CD is going to end up being $12.50. So that you can see in this case, here it might look like, oh, $60 is cheaper than $75, but for each CD in this set you're paying $15, and each CD in this set you're paying $12.50. So the second store has the better buy. And the last type of question that you're going to see for this lesson is like number 2. And it says, after 3.5 hours, Pasha traveled 217 miles. If she travels at a constant speed, how far will she have traveled after 4 hours? In order to find this, you have to first find your unit rate. You need to see how much she traveled in 1 hour. Once you know that, you can easily find how far she can travel in 4 hours. So if she was traveling, and think about it, if you want to do miles per hour or hours per mile, which way would it go? And I'm going to tell you right now, just a hint. Normally, you always put your distance over your time. So our distance is 217 miles over 3.5 hours. And notice I'm keeping my labels in there to help me out at the end. And I would divide by 3.5, so that I can find out in 1 hour how much she travels. And 217 divided by 3.5, she travels 62 miles each hour. Well, if in 1 hour it's 62 miles, to find out for 4 hours, you would just multiply this by 4. 62 times 4 is 248 miles. So in 4 hours, that's how far she would travel.